I need you to check out this Captain America ripoff named Fighting American.
Or this one, The Shield.
There's corny copycat characters like this all across comic books, and we'll get back to these two later. Speaking of Captain America knockoffs, let's look at a DC Cap knockoff, The Guardian.
You've probably seen him in Young Justice, or this goofy guy in Teen Titans, or
I don't know, a comic book? If you're a nerd?
There was also this female version who was also Jimmy Olsen's sister in the Arrowverse, so there's that.
You're not gonna hurt the city anymore.
And look, I get it. Not every superhero with a helmet and a shield and who was made in the 1940s for an American-centered comic line who was bullied in New York City and started crime fighting is a knockoff of Captain America. Obviously.
You dummy.
Oh, sorry. The Guardian is from York City, not New York City, so it can't be a ripoff. Speaking of shielded characters,
anyone want to take a gander who this is? And you're probably thinking Wonder Woman. Or, because it's a video about copycats, you're thinking it's a Wonder Woman copycat. You smartass. You've heard of Wonder Woman, but have you heard of the Power Princess? Their name is the Power Princess. Power Princess lives in this secluded island named Themyscira. Sorry, this is one's called Utopia. It is not Wonder Woman, people. This is Power Princess. During World War II, the Utopians had a choice. They could fight in the war, or they could leave. And considering they were literally nuking people, they decided they're a peaceful island, so they got on their ship and they left. Except for Power Princess, who just stayed and became a superhero. After the Secret War storyline, which just involves all these multiverse shenanigans, she changes her name to Warrior Woman. Yes, this girl who looks exactly like Wonder Woman changes her name to Warrior Woman. Interestingly, Warrior Woman is actually this evil impersonator of Power Princess. So Marvel made a copy of Wonder Woman called Power Princess, and then canonically, they get a copy called Warrior Woman, who ironically, its name sounds more like the original person, Wonder Woman. Look, I don't know, man. Comic books are weird. But it gets even weirder than that. Anyone want to guess who this red and yellow speedster is? Hint. He calls himself the fastest man alive. Now, if you're paying attention to this video, you probably know that that's probably a Barry Allen Flash copycat. In which case, you'd be wrong, because that is Barry Allen, Marvel's version. Well, kind of. I told you it gets really weird. See, in 1985, Barry Allen died in a comic run called Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is just another multiverse shenanigan story, but DC's version. Yay! But Barry Allen didn't like comic book die and come back a year later. No, he was like dead. Like he didn't appear in any sort of DC material for over 20 years. In fact, most of the Flashes you see in TV and comic books and cartoons was Wally West for this reason. He was like dead. Like he was dead. And shortly after his death, Marvel released this comic book with this mysterious speedster saying he feels like he's been running for a very long time. Barry Allen basically died by running so fast he ceased to exist. This mysterious person says he forgets his name, but thinks it sounds like Buried Alien. Barry Allen, Buried Alien. At one point, someone says he's kind of the fastest man alive, and he looks at them and says, yeah, that sounds about right. Sometimes we get what I like to deem as copycatception. A copycat within a copycat. And sometimes they're within even the same company. This is Willoughby Kipling. He's a powerful mage who doesn't really get involved unless he deems it absolutely necessary. You might notice that he looks like another popular DC character, John Constantine. And that's because they're practically the same character. He drinks, he smokes, he doesn't really care much about things. See, back in the day, DC comic writer Grant Morrison wanted to use John Constantine in one of his runs of Doom Patrol, and DC basically said no. So Morrison basically said screw you and just created another character who looks the same, who acts the same, just with a different name. And this is where the copycatception comes in. In the 80s, another comic book writer, Phil Foglio, also wanted to use John Constantine in a DC comic run. And can you guess what DC said to him? They said no. Obviously, I wouldn't have put it in this video if they said yes.
The difference here is Foglio then asked, well, if I can't use Constantine, can I use Willoughby Kipling?
And they still said no.
So Foglio went and recreated history by creating yet another Constantine and Kipling ripoff and calling him after the satirical writer Ambrose Bierce. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce this name, but it looks like it is, and I didn't bother searching it up. Admittedly, there isn't very much pictures on the internet of Ambrose Bierce,
So this bum-ass picture will have to do.
but it gets the job done. You can see it kind of looks like Constantine and Kipling and, I don't know, David Bowie. But not every copycat is bad. You remember that Captain America copycat from the beginning of the video?
Yeah, this guy, the Shield.
Well, what if I told you he isn't the copy, but Captain America is? The Shield didn't debut until January 1940. Captain America didn't debut until December 1940, nearly an entire year later. So this entire time, Cap has actually been the true copycat. And sometimes the copy is just better. Like Deadpool, who is a clear copycat of Deathstroke from DC. Where would you do a Deathstroke? In a Deadpool. And if that doesn't convince you, Deathstroke, his name is Slade Wilson, a mercenary, and Deadpool is Wade Wilson, a merc with a mouth. The irony, though, is that despite this being the most obvious parody copycat character in this video, he actually was one of the only ones who wasn't even intended to be a copycat. See, Deadpool's name actually came from something that creator Rob Liefeld's parents said. It feels like when one celebrity dies, other celebrities die shortly after, like a Deadpool. Being that he was a comic creator, he wrote this down because it was a cool name, and yes, Rob, Deadpool is a cool name. He uses swords and guns not because Deathstroke uses them, but because his favorite part about the Avengers comic books was all the iconic weapons, like the hammer and the shield and the bow and arrow, and so he gave him swords and guns. In fact, the only reason that he's a parody is because he sent it to his colleague, and his colleague was like, hey, this is basically Deathstroke from DC, and they're like, yeah, sure, let's run with it, and just played with the idea. Speaking of Rob Liefeld, do we want to hear about yet another Captain America ripoff?
No, nobody wants that.
So let's do it. In the late 90s, Rob Liefeld and Jeff Loeb were working on a new Captain America comic, which Marvel then canceled. And considering Rob Liefeld made this thing, it may have been for the best. And in retaliation, Rob Liefeld did not make a copycat character. You thought I was gonna say that, but I tricked you. No, he did not make a copycat character. But he did try to, and he called him Agent America, and Marvel Comics just sued him. So then Liefeld got real petty, and instead of backing down to Marvel, they went to the two people who literally created Captain America, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Back in the day, they created yet another Captain America ripoff named Fighting American, and I put him in this video, but if I put every Captain America knockoff character, this video would never end. Rob asked if he could use all the story elements and concepts he had for Agent America and his Captain America storyline and basically just replace them with the character Fighting American. Since he was already an established character, Marvel couldn't sue him for copyright infringement. And you might think they wouldn't say yes to getting back and blatantly parodying one of their most iconic characters, but fun fact, Jack Kirby helped create the Guardian, the Shield, and Fighting American, so I think he hates Captain America more than anyone else. Or he just loves more and more patriotic characters in this world. Go America. Anyways, this actually created some weird legal loopholes, and Marvel just ended up settling the lawsuit. To continue this pettiness, he just riddled the comic book with even more Marvel knockoff characters. Comic books are riddled with corny copycat characters, and oftentimes just other characters are just inspiration for other writers to create new characters. And a lot of times this actually leads to mainstream success. Look at the success of The Boys and Invincible, which has grown past just comic book fans. And in many ways, they've become almost as popular as their counterparts and arguably have even better storylines than their counterparts. And there's so many other copycat rip-off knockoff characters that I could have put in this video, but that's for another time. Okay, bye!